Good morning and welcome to CrossPoint Online. I'm Kimberly.
I'm Tina.
I'm Dolores.
If you're a first-time guest, we invite you to share the stream, get on the app, crosspointonline.net, and also drop a comment there.
Yeah. You just did it again.
I talk too much. I said her part. Okay, well, today we have Dolores here. She is going to talk to us about an opportunity that she has that's very unique.
Well, the prayer team was looking for something to do for Chad because we all feel a little bit helpless with regards to his situation. So we have an opportunity for everyone to put a physical presentation of their prayers. We have a prayer Afghan.
And how can we participate in that?
All right. To participate, the prayer Afghan will be in the back of the sanctuary near the cross Monday through Thursday. Feel free to stop by the church, say a prayer for Chad, and tie some knots in the fringe on the Afghan. And that will be your physical representation of prayer for Chad.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thanks for doing that.
No problem.
So how can our online guests participate?
Well, as I just said, come to the church.
Yes. It's okay.
Repetition is important. Come to the church and say a prayer for Chad. The Afghan, as I said, will be back by the cross in the back of the sanctuary Monday through Thursday. So make sure you get here during that time frame.
Awesome. So here's a question for you. What is one thing that you could live with less of? Just one.
Starbucks.
Nice.
Probably some clothes.
Close. People's opinions. Yeah.
When I say Starbucks, that's not like a name.
No.
That's just I
her
need
bank
to
account.
stop going to Starbucks.
Yeah. Her bank account. So note taken. I'll pick you up some.
Thank you.
Yeah. Owen won't know.
And we'll get Dolores' hand-me-downs since she buys a lot of
Yes.
clothes.
So here's a joke. What did one traffic light say to another?
I don't know.
Stop looking at me. I'm changing.
You're welcome, Dylan.
Enjoy the service.
Beth, and we're excited to have everybody with us today. If you're joining us from East End or Robertson County, or if you're joining us online, we want to welcome you as well. If you would just check in with us if you're online, let us know you're there. We would love to say hello. If this is your first Sunday with us, we're especially glad that you're here, and we would love to know that you came today. So if you would just get on our app, CrossPoint Now, and let us know that you're here, or even check in out at the welcome table in the lobby. If you do that, we will make a donation in your name to one of the organizations in town that we partner with. But we are glad to have everybody with us today. So we have a couple of things going on in the next couple of weeks we want to let you know about. First off is next Sunday, November the 21st, is Child Dedication Sunday. So if you are interested in that and you have a child that you would like to have dedicated, you can sign up for that on the app, CrossPoint Now, or again out at the welcome table out in the lobby. Now, it is getting to be Christmas time, and we want to show the community that we are for the kids who are in need in our area. So starting today, we have a gift registry that is available online on Amazon. You can get to that through our app, CrossPoint Now. It will say Operation Love Your Neighbor. It's really easy to get to. And there are lots of things on there that you can purchase for kids in our area that are in need. It's not just toys. There's lots and lots of stuff. So we are trying to provide a good Christmas for 100 kids that are either a part of our church family or are in one of the 7 counties in our area. But all you have to do is go in there. You can purchase it, check out, and they will ship those items straight here to the church. You don't have to remember to bring it in. You don't have to wrap it. It's all taken care of for you. But we would love to be able to do that for 100 kids in our area that need some help this Christmas. So I hope that you'll do that. So as you know, we are continuing our series, Courageous Relationships. And Chad has been bringing us messages about things like commitment and about patience and, all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we're going to do a little quiz today because we're going to talk about some things in relationships that really matter, right? So, and it doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a sibling. It could be a parent or someone you're dating or even one of your kids, but we're going to talk about, and you can see where you identify in this relationship, what happens when one person in the relationship, how they react when something is empty or if you're running on empty, okay? So, for example, let's say that you go to the fridge, you open it up, grab the jug of milk out of there. There's like this much milk left in there, okay? All right, now I don't know who in here would ever do that or who would want to admit to do that, but it is just as easy to throw it away as it is to put it back in the fridge, okay? That's one. Or how about you've had like this super hard day at work, but you know that waiting on you at home is that package of Chips Ahoy that you have tucked back in the pantry, okay? Hidden from your kids. Not that I would ever do that, but maybe you do. And you go and you open that up and you peel that back. There's like crumbs, like that's all that's in there, okay? Now, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but like 80% of marriages end over something, just like that, okay? Divorce, right there, over something like that, okay? And how about this? Maybe you're in a relationship with someone who likes to live on the edge, okay? They will drive that car until it is not even on E. It is below E, okay? So it doesn't even register anymore. And then you get in the car. And you turn it on, bing, bing, bing. Oh, man, But they were smart because they know now you're the one that has to fill that car up, right? Yes. And here we go. And this is my personal favorite. You're at home. You go to the bathroom to do whatever it is that you do in there, okay? You sit down. You look over. Little cardboard roll just spinning, okay? Just spinning. Or even better, the one desperate little square that dangles off of the cardboard, and you bring it up maybe, and they're like, no, there was toilet paper on it when I left, and you're like doing that little waddle of shame to the cabinet where the toilet paper is. Yeah, okay, all right, bad, really bad. I don't know if any of you all identify with that, okay, but I'm just saying I'm going to leave that all out there. So like I said, in a little bit, Chad's going to come up here and talk to us about all these important things in relationships, but I think we've covered a lot of the real issues right here, okay? So if you all would just join us this morning and stand, and we will worship together.
The Lamb of so much for worshiping with us today. You can go ahead and have a seat.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Hey, let's hear it for Dylan. He always helps. Almost every Sunday he is here. Dylan does a good job. And they just won in football this week. And I don't know anything about football, so that's good that I knew that. So congratulations, Mason County. Appreciate all of you all being here today, whether you're on online, in person here in Maysville, Augusta, Robertson County, East End. We're really glad that you're here. And I do have a couple of things we want to celebrate. First and foremost, I want to take a minute to just honor all those in Augusta, East End, online, and those of you here especially. If you are a veteran, would you please stand so that we can recognize you and just say thank you? Let us do that for you. Yeah, let's hear it for them. And then something really exciting to celebrate. This is one of our favorite things to celebrate here because we're all about leading people to be passionate followers of Christ. And last Sunday, 2 people made a first-time decision to follow Jesus. Can we celebrate with them today so they know that we love them and care for them? Thank you for doing that. So as we're talking about this idea of being lion-hearted, courageous in relationships, because relationships really do take courage. They're risky. They're dangerous. They can be wonderful and meaningful and beautiful and rich, but it takes a risk, and so it takes real courage. And as I was thinking about that, I started thinking about what are the things that make you run on empty. And so watch this video. The video is what made me start thinking of this today. See if you've seen this one. Watch.
This one for me. Uh-oh. I gotta clean that. I will build it. Uh-oh, I built. Oh. Slippery. I gotta clean that.
You ever feel like that? You ever feel like just when you start to get your cup full in life, something knocks the feet right out from under you and you're like, oh, slippery, got to clean that up, you know? Ever feel like that? I wonder if we went to East End today and we sat around the tables with them, because that's how they join us in worship. They sit around the tables and they know and they're grateful. I've talked to them every Thursday. I get to know them. And they're grateful that they have River Outreach has opened their arms to them and they have a safe and warm place to live as they get back on their feet. But I wonder how many of them, if they were really honest, would say, you know, I'm thankful for this opportunity, but at the same time, I wonder if I'll ever get over what has brought emptiness into my life, to the point that I don't even have a place to live anymore. I wonder if we went to Augusta, we went to Robertson County campuses, and we said, hey, what leaves you feeling empty? I wonder how many of those at the Robertson County healthcare facility where we have services would say, you know, I've been staring out the window for another day, and it feels like that's all I've been doing, and I wonder sometimes what the point of this empty life is. I wonder if we walked around the room here in Maysville and we got really honest and we just had the courage together to get really honest and ask each other the question, what leaves you feeling empty? I wonder what kind of answers we'd hear. I wonder what kind of grief we'd learn about. I wonder about what kind of struggles we would start to learn that behind the smiles is, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? We would learn that people carry a weight of an emptiness that we had no idea of. I wonder what kind of emptiness we would find. And I think we do all kinds of things to try to ignore the emptiness in us. We do our best to busy ourselves from the time we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, and we just hope to God that we wear ourselves out so that by the time we lay our head to bed, we may actually go to sleep and not be thinking about all the emptiness that we feel, because that empty ache is an awful ache that can grow inside a person. And then others of us were like, you know what, forget trying to ignore it. I can't ignore it. So what I can do, maybe what I can do is I can try to fill it up. Even if it's a temporary fill up, at least it's better than feeling it every moment of every day. At least if I can get a break. And it's not just the obvious things. It's not just the things that are easy for us to look at others and say, hey, I can't believe you would do that with your life. I'm talking about things like shopping. I'm talking about things about like sex. I'm thinking about things like food and all the other things that are completely acceptable in our society to do and to use to fill up the empty places in us. Because it's an awful feeling, that empty ache. And others of us have learned a long time ago that there's nothing we can do but fill it with our tears. And we're thankful that we have relationship with God and we have relationship with others, because those are the things that are supposed to fill this up, right? Those are the things that are that's what life is really about. That's what life will be about when nothing else matters. And so we're like, at least we have our relationships. And yet we also can be honest enough, as the psalmist was in the Old Testament, and use the word, and Jesus ended up using those own words for himself on the cross when they both said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because sometimes it feels like the one you need the most to be there isn't anywhere to be found, and that is an awful, empty feeling when even God and your relationship with him has nothing to give. And then we have relationships with others. And we all have those people. I think we can be honest enough here to admit this. Maybe I'm the only one and I'm going to look like a real jerk. But don't you have people in your life that it's like they take a vacuum hose and they attach it to your soul and they suck the living life out of you? Anybody else willing to admit that? Okay, one person's clapping, so she understands me. Thank you, Kathy, for being real and honest. Yes, there are people like that, right? And sometimes I'm probably that person to somebody else, if I'm honest. They're like, oh my gosh, here comes Chad. Get the vacuum out. You know, he's going to suck the life out of me. We do that sometimes to each other. Sometimes it's just a matter of personality, and sometimes it's a whole lot deeper than that. But we have this way sometimes of in the relationship, and then there's relationships that we want and that we enjoy and that we love to have. And then all of a sudden it's like there's this emptiness that comes between even the best of our relationships sometimes. And we're like, hey, what are we running into here? Why? You used to fill me up and I used to fill you up, and now it's like nothing. Like, what is happening here? The feelings, the relationship, what is going on? And it gets really frustrating, it gets really discouraging, it can get really scary. When all of a sudden the relationship that used to be the one you counted on is no longer doing anything but empty. And Jesus comes along and says, just so you know, and this is good news. He says, just so you know, if you're living like this is not what I want for you. In fact, Jesus says, listen, I have something better for you. I didn't just come to live and die and be raised from the dead so that someday when you die, you can go to heaven. I actually care about you living like this now. And I have not come that you live like this. Jesus says in John chapter 10, verse 10, that the enemy has come to kill, steal, and destroy. He's the one who leaves you empty. Jesus says, I have come that you might have life and life to the full. That is a promise from God to you. That's a promise from God to you and me for our lives, that this isn't why he came. He came in this life that you might have and I might have abundant life. In fact, in verse 38 of Luke chapter 6, Jesus says this. Listen, this is Jesus' picture of what he wants for your life. Jesus says, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For the measure with which you use, it will be measured to you. And so Jesus says, it's not just enough that your life is full of something. Like Jesus says, I look down here and I see a bunch of cracks, and that microphone will be fine. I see a bunch of cracks, I see a bunch of crevices, I see these empty places that nobody else sees, and I want those full. And then Jesus says, that's not even enough. I want to come along, and I also want to fill you up even more than that. I want to fill in all those little crevices, every little empty space in you, until literally it is overflowing. Until literally, like everywhere you go, it's just like that, right? Maybe I can hit the front row, just like that, right? Like every once in a while, that's what God says. Did I really hit you? I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't think I could do that. Crystal thought it was great. So Jesus says, this is what I want for you. I literally want you to be a person who is so overflowing that when you walk around, you spill all over Robert in the front row. I want you to be a person who has so much of me and is filled in all those empty places in you that you start to live the abundant life that I said is possible. Wouldn't that be great? Can you imagine what kind of joy that would be? Can you imagine what kind of peace must come with that? Can you imagine what it must be that even when life comes along and tries to empty your bucket, there's still something left to go around? And that's what Jesus says he wants for us. He's like, what if, think about this with me. What if we have settled in our lives for way too little? Like, what if we have gotten satisfied with far less than what God intends you to be satisfied with? What if the problem isn't that we expect too much, but we expect too little? And God is saying, would you just let me fill you up? What if you dared to give yourself permission to believe that this is how God wants you to live instead of this? Will you give yourself permission to believe that? Reminds me of a little boy. Little boy has got this tablet. He's reading his Bible app and has all these pictures and videos on it. And he's reading for the first time about Moses, God using Moses to part the sea and lead the Israelite slaves out of slavery into freedom. And the boy's just amazed. He had never heard this story before. He's like, whoa, that's amazing. God, he's saying out loud, God, you're awesome. I can't believe, wow, look how you did that. You stopped the water. That's amazing. And he was just saying it out loud. And this old man comes by in the park and he said, what are you reading? And he said, well, I'm reading the Bible about Moses and parting the sea. And the man shakes his head and he says, that's not true. He said, science has proven that water wasn't parted. It was a few inches of water. They all walked across in a few inches of water. There's no miracle there. You need to educate yourself, boy, on what's true. Don't just believe everything you read. And the boy said, oh, I didn't know. The boy goes back to reason. The old man sits down, starts reading the paper, and the boy starts again. Wow, God, you're amazing. God, how did you do that? That's incredible. And the old man says, what are you talking about? Didn't I just tell you it was just a few inches of water? They didn't part the sea. And he said, I know. But the Bible goes on to say that God drowned a whole Egyptian army. That means in a few inches of water. That's amazing. And I wonder if God is looking for us to have the permission to believe. No wonder Jesus says, if you're going to enter my kingdom, you got to have the faith of a child. It doesn't mean ignorance. It means a faith that says, God, I dare to believe that the things you say are possible aren't just possible for everybody else. This is possible for me. You want me to have every empty space filled up until it's overflowing with you. And God, I dare to believe. I wonder if anybody here would be willing to say that in your own heart and mind today. God, I dare to believe that you could give me an abundant life. And Jesus says there's just one thing that keeps people from that. Just one thing that requires people to live like this when they could be living like this. And he tells us about it in Luke chapter 6, beginning at verse 37. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, and be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. He also told them this parable. Can the blind lead the blind? Will not both fall into a pit? The student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. I want to suggest to you this, that the fulfillment in your life and in your relationships happens the more we have the courage to give up our right to judge. If you really want to have fulfillment in your life, then give up your right to judge. That's a hard thing to do, isn't it? Because when I see something right in front of me, that's all I can see, and I think I have it all figured out. Oh, this is bad. This never should have happened. I didn't ask this for this. I didn't want this. This is painful. This hurts. I don't like going through this. I wish this had never happened. And we look at it right in front of us and we make a judgment about it. This is bad and it can only be bad. There is no good that can come of this. God, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you have got it wrong. I don't understand. You say you bring good, but what I'm going through right now, there's no way there can be any good. And guess what? We require this because we've already made ourselves judge over it. And our lives are robbed of this because we're so fixated on what's wrong that we can't see that God is a God who doesn't cause the evil and cause the pain and cause the wrong, but He's a God who finds a way, if we'll let Him, to work all things for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And when we quit judging life and start trusting Him to be the one who sees what we can't, it's amazing how even in the difficult times, this can start happening. But that takes courage because it's much easier to be the judge of life. It doesn't bring anything good, but it's more natural. It's unnatural to trust Him to be judge and say, God, for me this looks bad, but I know you're good, so I'm interested to see how you're going to lead me through this and past this for your good. Man, that's where fulfillment in life happens. That's where overflowing of God's Spirit happens. And not only in our lives, but in our relationships. Again, it's easier and it's natural to hang on to judging and to feel very justified in it. I can relate to that. You know, I could, at this point, people, a lot of pastors write books, And so at this point in the ministry, I think I could write a book on how to get fired from a church. Like, I'm good at that. Like, I am really good at making church people mad. And there's a difference between church people and passionate followers of Christ, and I think you know the difference. And so I remember in Canton, Ohio, that was a church. We're going to refocus this church, 100 years old, been in decline for 10 years. They couldn't reach, they told me, we can't reach our community because we are a white upper middle class, and our community's not like that. And one guy told me, he said, you know what we need to do to refocus? I said, what? He said, we need to move. I said, why? He said, every 40 years, we would always move this church to reach people like us. And those people aren't like us, and so there's no way we're going to be able to reach them. And what I didn't know is he really meant, and if God helped us to do so, I'm not in for it because I don't want those kind of people in the church. And one day on a Sunday, he was out waiting for me to come down the hallway after the last prayer, and he had by the back of the shirt collar a young African-American boy, about 13 years old. Boy looked terrified. And I was like, what? I could feel my blood starting to boil. I'm like, what are you doing? I said to him. I said to the man, what are you doing? And he said, well, I caught him. I said, caught him doing what? He said, he's a thief. I said, you caught him stealing in the service? He said, yeah. I said, well, tell me what happened. But first, can you let go of the boy? And he's like, I'm not letting go of this thief. And I said, tell me what happened. He said, here's what happened. During the prayer, you were closing out in prayer, and I watched while everybody else closed their eyes. Obviously, he did not. I watched while this boy was leaned over the pew, acting like he was praying, but he was looking down, staring at the person's phone in front of him. And I knew he was going to take it. I said, wait a minute, so you saw him take it? No, I didn't see him take it. I knew he was going to. I stopped him from taking it. If I hadn't stopped him, he was going to take it. So I said, you didn't see him take it, but you knew he was going to take it. I asked the boy, I said, were you going to take it? And whether he was or not, he was smart enough to say, no, sir. And I said, see, he says he wasn't going to take it. And he said, I knew you would side with them. I knew you would side with people like them because you want people like them in our church. And I said, people like who? And he said, people like them, thieves like him. And I said, oh, wait a minute. No, you're right. I do want thieves like that in this church because last time I checked, you're a thief as well. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I checked the books and you have been withholding your tithes and offerings ever since we started this refocus. And the Bible says in Malachi 3:10, when you do that, you are robbing from God. So you're just as big a thief as him. Amen. Oh, it felt good. Of course, I resigned shortly after. And you know what? I was just as judgmental as he was. Oh, I felt justified to judge that self-righteous bigot. Felt justified. But here's the problem with judging. When I do that, even when I think I'm justified, I end up putting holes in my own bucket. I do. I put holes in my own bucket. The American church right now, I would say the evangelical American church is obsessed with trying to protect the truth and protect God and defend what's right. And we do it through angry judgment, many of us. Which is interesting because I've never seen that attract anybody to something good. You know, it's always when you're yelling at people, you're going to hell. It usually sends people running, you know, rather than, oh, give me more, tell me more. So I don't know how we think that's going to work. But why do we do it? People have said to me all the time, this is what always gets me in trouble in ministry. They say to me all the time, well, if you don't judge that sin, if you don't tell them the truth, because they don't use the word judge, then you're condoning that sin. Now, here's the deal. When we judge, we're still condoning sin because we're condoning our own. Because the moment we start judging, we've started sinning. Jesus says, do not judge. He's very clear, period. No exceptions, no yeah buts. Do not judge, period. God's saying, listen, I've got this under control. You all stink at it. Chad, you stink at it. I've got this under control. I know the heart. You don't. I see everything you don't see. You don't. And so don't judge, because the moment you judge, you're condoning your own sin. Don't do it. Don't participate in it. And Jesus is positive about, do not judge and you won't be judged. I don't know about you, but I have plenty that he could judge me on. So God, sign me up for this. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. You know, when you face something like I'm facing right now, you get really honest about eternity. And so, yeah, if there's something that keeps me from being condemned, then Lord, let's do it. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Boy, that sounds good, God, because I have a lot that needs to be forgiven. And Jesus says, this isn't about a work salvation where if you don't judge, then you don't get judged, and you don't condemn, you don't get. No, it's about being so full of God's mercy, being so full of God's forgiveness, being so thankful that God, who could condemn you, has accepted you as his own son, his own daughter, that we're so overflowing with the joy and the goodness of our own salvation that we don't have room anymore for those empty judgments. We don't need that anymore. We don't want that anymore. Because Jesus says, here we read it, it's like the blind leading the blind when we judge people. It's one sinner calling another sinner and trying to convince them that their sin is somehow worse than your sin. He said that's a blind leading the blind. And to be like the teacher, as he says here in this verse 39 and 40, is to be someone, to be like Jesus is to not judge. Jesus himself came and said, I have not come to condemn the world, I have come to save the world. The one who could condemn refused to. He died, made it possible for all of us to know him now and forever. And so how in the world do I live like that? Well, first of all, if you will, then this can happen, both in life and in relationships. So how do I do that? I love how Jesus puts it so practically. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, brother, let me take that speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your eye, then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. How do we do this? How do we have this kind of fulfillment in life and in relationships? We give up our right to judge by trading that in for confession. We trade in judging for confessing. Because the other people we're judging, we can't change them. We can't change somebody's heart or mind, and God doesn't need you to do that. He can convict, and he can change, and he can bring people along at their pace. He's done it all these years without us, and he'll keep on doing it, and when he does it, it changes people's lives. You can give testimony to that. I can give testimony to that. And so he says, give up judging, and in your relationships, if you really want them to be healthy, and start confessing how you feel and what you need, and how you perceive things, and your own faults, and just watch how God works in that relationship. I remember at my first church I pastored, there's this young couple, great couple, and they were so in love. You remember that? They were just so in love. Man, they couldn't go a minute without touching each other, holding each other's hands, you know, and looking each other's eyes and just getting lost. And it was all wonderful, and it was great. I was so happy for them, always happy for them. And I married them, and everybody's happy, everything's wonderful. And I always say, hey, if you ever hit a rough patch, and that means you're normal like the rest of us, then give me a call. 6 months later, they gave me a call. I said, what's wrong? They said, I think we're going to get a divorce. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, well, that didn't last. What happened? And they said, can we come talk to you? I said, yeah. And so I'm imagining the worst. Somebody's had an affair. Somebody had some deep, dark secret that just got uncovered that they should have revealed before. Like, what can it be? I'm preparing myself for, like, this big, like, something huge. This has to be huge because they went from, like, can't live without each other to, I think we don't want to ever see each other again. So, like, what has happened? And so I asked them when they sat down in my office, I said, what happened? And they both blurted out angrily while they turned away from each other, so they had to look at each other, and said the laundry. They were serious. And I held it together. I was very professional. I didn't, on the inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me? Like, seriously? But on the outside, I'm like, oh, tell me more. And so they told me more. And she said, I work hard, and she did. She already had a little one, and he had brought her, they were kind of a blended family now, and I have this little girl, and then I work, and she worked really hard, like 10-hour shifts, and she's like, and I come home, and I try to get, the house cleaned up, and I try to get the laundry done, and I try to do all these things, and then he comes in, and he purposely messes things up to make it harder on me. And I never knew, I thought he loved me, but somebody who loved me would never treat me like that. Why would he do that? I turned to him. I said, what's the deal with the laundry? He said, well, I come home and I know she's tired, and I'm tired too, and he worked long days and he worked hard, and he's like, but I know that I want to spend time with her, and so she has a lot to do when we get home, and so I want to help out. But every time I try to help out, especially with the laundry, I never get it right. It's never folded right. It's never done right, and so she's always mad at me, and so that makes me, I just think, what's the point? And I just don't even want to be a part of this anymore. And I said to them, I said, can I just suggest to you that something that our premarital counselor suggested to me and Kimberly? I said, I don't know, I know why you guys are coming to me is because I'm free, so I'm nobody, But maybe it has nothing to do with the laundry. Maybe the problem's not the problem. Maybe what would help for just a minute, if you're willing to try it, is that we don't talk about what the laundry, but we talk about how you feel about the laundry. Can we do that for a minute? So finish this sentence for me. When it comes to the laundry, I feel like what? And she said very clearly, she said, I feel like he purposely does it wrong to try to hurt me. I said, how do you feel? He said, I feel like she wants to be my mom and not my wife. I'm like, oh gosh, that one, probably shouldn't have said that, man. That's not helpful. But he was being honest. And she says, and I said to him, do you purposely set out, come home and think, I'm going to do the laundry wrong, even though she's shown me how, I'm just going to do it the other way because I just want to give it to her, just make her have a horrible night. He's like, no. He said, I don't know why she feels like that. I know that I don't get the laundry folded exactly as she likes it, but I don't understand why she would, and I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm really not. I really want to help because I would like to get all that stuff done so I can actually be with her. Like, I miss her. Just want to sit on the couch and watch TV and hold her, and just like before when we were dating, I just want to be with her. And I said, well, to the woman, I said, do you want him to feel like you're his mom? She's like, oh my gosh, no. She said, I don't want that. I said, did you know he felt that way? She's like, no. Did you know that he felt like you were about this big when you talked to him like that? No, I didn't know that. I thought he was purposely trying to hurt me, but now you know you're not. And they began to open up and talk about not you did this and you should have and you said. That's always a great way to be empty in a relationship with God or others. You. But the moment we can start saying, I feel, and I said, and I did, it doesn't mean everything, you can't address any hard issue. It means that you address it through the lens of I rather than you. And once we do, guess what? We are able to hear each other. I've seen it happen over and over again. Kimberly and I have experienced it now for almost 20 years, that every time we have the courage to be able to stop saying you and start saying I, we switch from judging to confessing. It's amazing how arguments can be diffused and difficult situations can be worked through. And so I want to challenge you this week. Watch yourself. When you hear yourself saying you or he did or she did or he said or you said, stop yourself and say, wait a minute. Even if it's just in your head, let me turn that around. I feel, I need, I did. And just see how that reorientates you. Just watch what it could do for try it in your relationship with somebody you love. Try it. They get stirred up over something and saying, I hear you saying, I bet that feels like. I'm sorry that when I said that came across like that. That would hurt me too. Watch what it does in a relationship. It's not that hard. And yet it is so hard to humble ourselves and not judge, but confess. And you know why I think it's hard for a lot of us? Myself included, is I don't think some of us have ever learned how to love ourselves. Jesus says, 2 greatest commandments. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as who? As yourself. He assumes that you love who God's made you to be. He assumes that. We can't assume that, can we? I mean, I can remember early on saying as a child to myself, I hate myself. And I've learned over the years there's a whole lot of adults who still live like that. I struggle with this. I was talking to my counselor about 6, 7 months ago, and he asked me this really interesting question. He said, Chad, how many, over 22 years of ministry, how many encouragement cards have you kept over the years from people? How many positive emails have you kept? And I said, to be honest, none. He's like, you've just gotten rid of all of those. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just haven't kept those. I appreciate them, but I haven't kept them. He said, well, let me ask you this question. How many negative and hate emails and letters have you kept? I'm like, all of them. He's like, why? I said, well, that way people can see how I responded and I have evidence. I mean, that's how sick I am in my mind sometimes, you know. Yeah, somebody asked me a while ago, man, Chad, they haven't seen me for a while. They're like, what happened to you? I'm like, 22 years of ministry, buddy, and you were part of the reason, right? Like, that's it, right? It's not easy. And so I put up all these walls. But really, it wasn't about ministry. It was walls that I had put up a long time ago that didn't allow myself to love myself. I've been reading all these books on cancer and everything, and one of the things that is common for every radical remission story beyond conventional medicine, one of the factors is people have to really reckon with themselves and deal with the regrets, deal with hurts, deal with whether or not they love themselves. And people who are willing to let go of all that negative and receive the good that God has for them are better able to heal and to grow. And so I've been taking that seriously and praying about that, you know, and learning how to love myself. And at the same time, God sent somebody in my life from here, Barb Thompson, who is a part of our church family, and she's a cancer survivor. And right when I was getting diagnosed, she sat me down and she said, I want you to try praying this every day. You are blessed, you are grateful, you are thankful, you are loved. But she said, I want you to make it personal. And so every day for the last over a month, I've been praying this simple breath prayer. Deep breaths in and out, and I'm just praying and meditating on God, and I say, I am blessed, and I breathe. I am grateful, and I breathe. I am thankful, and I breathe. And those 3 are easy for me. That's easy. And it's taken me several weeks to be able to honestly and fully embrace this next line. I love myself. I wonder who else that's true for. Because it's hard to not judge life and the world when you're so busy judging, condemning, and not forgiving yourself. It's hard to do that and give that gift to others. When you're doing that to yourself, it's hard to receive that gift in abundance from God the Father. And so I want to invite you to just this week, as you're thinking about you versus I statements, say this: I am blessed, I am grateful, I am thankful, and see how easy it is for you to say to yourself. And fill in your name, Kathy, I love you. Kevin, I love you. See what that feels like to you. It felt so weird to me, but I can tell you this, it's not feeling so weird anymore. And it's amazing if you don't judge the bad things that happen and give God a chance, how he can take some of the worst things in your life and they become some of the best moments of God's grace and love than you would have ever had. Amen? That's what he can do. And we're going to end the service today through somebody else leading us into prayer and a final song. Dolores Baker, would you come up? And I'm just going to pass this on to her, and she has something from the prayer team that she wants to share, and then she's agreed to pray for us. Can you encourage Dolores to come? That takes courage to do that.
How many of you feel completely helpless regarding Chad's situation? You really want to do something, you have no idea what to do. We've got an opportunity for you. James 5:16 says that heartfelt prayers can accomplish much. The Amplified Bible says when prayers are put into action and made effective by God, they are dynamic and they can have tremendous power.
I believe that. I believe our prayers have power. So we have a physical representation of your prayers. Back in the back corner by the cross is a prayer afghan, and it has fringe all around the edges. Our hope is that you would go and say a prayer for Chad and tie some knots. That will be your physical representation of prayer for Chad. So during the last song and at the end of the service, go back there, say some prayers for Chad, tie some knots. For the online group, the prayer afghan will be back in the sanctuary by the cross Monday through Thursday. Come anytime during the week and come and say a prayer for Chad, tie some knots. The afghan will make its way to Augusta. It will also be presented to CR for them to say prayers as well. Our hope is to present the afghan to Chad on November 28th. I have no doubt when we present this afghan, which is infused with your prayers, that he will feel the power and the presence of God and the power and the presence of your prayers. So during this last song, please feel free to go back and tie some knots. Let us pray. O Lord, our living God, maker of heaven and earth, who has tremendous power, more than we can even imagine. Lord, we lift up Chad, and we lift up others who not only have physical needs, but also emotional and just problems in their family. We lift them all up to you, and we ask that your tremendous power and your love and your presence just surround them and fill them. In your holy name, amen.
If you would stand and worship with us. Narrow as the road may seem, I'll follow where your spirit leads. Broken as my life may be, I will give you every piece. I hear you call. I am available, and I say, yes, Lord, I am available. Here I am with open hands, counting on your grace again. Less of me and more of you. I just want to see you move. I hear you call. I am available, and I say, yes, Lord, I am available, and I hear you of your throne within my heart. I hear you call. I am available, and I say, yes, Lord, I am available.
Thank you so much for being with us today. If you feel like you need prayer today and someone be back by the cross, that would be happy to spend that time with you. Don't forget about the prayer Afghan that's available back there. Make sure you stop and see that today. If you are going to be a part of the Strolling for the Colon today up in Burlington, we're all going to try to get together as a group, and we have stickers made for everybody to wear so that we'll know we're all together. So kind of look for us up there. But thanks again for being here today. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Sunday.